Hi everyone, this is Jung Wen. Today is December 5th, 2019. I will record this video to briefly talk about what have been done in past week. So here is a highlight and progress bar for each item. So from the past week, I work on two items mainly. The first one is to write the first paper with application, and you can see the estimate progress in past week is 10%. And the second one is convert the PHP file to JavaScript and Java code in DataView, and you can see the progress bar is 20%. So let's go inside the details. For the first one, the first paper is meant to extend the qualified survey with one deep learning application. I started to move existing survey onto Overleaf LaTeX editor, and I spent some time looking to the CUDA and OpenCL and TensorFlow Java API programming, and I try to gain some further insights on implementing deep learning model in DataView in future, other than just run a purely Python code, which can be a practical way to get started. So that's an update for the first one. For the second item, to try to convert the PHP file into Java and JavaScript version, I spent few days on investigating the issue that why it was not able to successfully download and read the jar file from Dropbox to local DataView project. The root cause was because of parse method. This parse method is using to load data from JSON string to a tree object. It does not parse ID attribute as a previous load method do. The load method was used from the PHP URL that's loading kind of API and to return a JSON object to the tree tree library, and then it can parse ID attribute for each element. And the problem is that downstream method that download or read jar file will based on the get element by ID method. And so if we don't have ID in the new parsed tree, and there's no way we can get what recognized, like what to download recognized from the Dropbox. So I try to look into the documentation of the library we are using, which is a DHTMLX tree, and I found there's no clue on any alternative method that can parse ID attribute for our need. And so what I was working on is to change the JavaScript code, which use the get element by ID to XParse that can grab the element by inner HTML, and this can successfully download the file from the Dropbox. So maybe we can go through the coding and try to debug it. Okay, yeah, maybe we can use this existing one. So I set few breakpoints, like in this method it makes outputs trackable. What it will do is it will go through each item and try to download from the Dropbox as well as make it trackable. And you can see this is old code, and it will use a get element by ID, and this is a name of the data product that basically the elements of a project. So if we can refresh this again, okay, and when we examine the elements in the HTML, maybe like this one, and we will see from the property, and it's a span, and it has value of my file name, but it does not have ID, and this is blank. This is a problem. But if we compile from the existing PHP file, version, and we can get the ID here. So what I do is to let's go back to the source code, and what I did is to replace its function with XPath, which is to get element by inner HTML, because we suppose each record is different from other, so we can use that one to replace the code. I think it's here. It's in the related code, yes. And yes, here it is. So we try to make use of the XParse and to do the document dot evaluate this XPath in the document, and then we can try to get the element by, instead of ID, we can get by inner HTML. So that is how I did it. And then I can successfully download the jar file. You can see here it's empty. I'm not sure whether we can show you here because the debugging process is a bit tricky, and it's dangling all around codes. There are multiple JavaScript. It's dangling all around. So let me try to step over next call. Okay. So let me use this one. Oh, it jumped to the JavaScript Java code. So here we can continue to debug it. Let's move step down, and we can see here is try to download the file from the Dropbox. So we can see if the path exists, and it does not exist. Sorry, it will create a new one. And let's go through this process, and we can successfully download the jar file. But we need to wait a little bit because it's a bit slow. Okay, let me try. So what it do is to get the token from the user table we have, and try to download the exact file from the Dropbox API. So you can see Dropbox path is generated, and then we can download the file. Let me see. Okay, it's still empty, but soon we can see a file there through the downloading process. So you can see the values are updated here on the right panel, and we can examine different thing we have. Right now we are trying to download the data view task extraction.jar. Yes, we have moved forward. So let's go and run all the things. So you can see it's downloading, and print out downloading, and writing to files. Let's go through all this process. You can see there's no exception caught, and as we can see from the folder, it has been downloaded to the local extraction.jar. The same issue happens several places downstream while I keeping investigating the project. So I may still need to change them from the get element by ID to the new method we have to use the XParse and get element by content or by inner HTML. So that is a plan to do it. So the remaining work, if this can work, because right now the JSON code is hard coded in the JavaScript file. If we can see from here, we have this. We have the here we have the JSON string hard coded instead of before we load from the PHP server as an API, and here we have the hard coded. If this can work, that means we the only rest of things to write some Java code to parse exact JSON string to this method or function, and we can so that is good enough to realize the same function as a PHP file can do. So yeah, I think it's a bit messy to debug the code from the Eclipse as well as from the website and the JavaScript. There are a lot of files, including the libraries I have to look into. So it's a bit messy. I hope you can still enjoy this video. Until next time, happy coding. Thank you for your time.